to be in Joshua. Where's my glasses today? Chapter 14. And as I was dwelling on the sermon, some other thoughts came to me, probably because of the world situation. So while you're turning to Joshua chapter 14, we read Revelation, I think, right before this, right? Didn't we go through that before we started Joshua? And you can also read like Ezekiel and Joel and other places. It talks about the end times. And we've got, the 4 horsemen, we have other things. And basically there's war, there's famine, there's plagues, there's pestilence, there's death, there's those kinds of things. And I believe, how many people here have been following what's going on in Ukraine? So the Russians, I think, are getting ready to invade a big chunk, if not all of Ukraine. NATO's doing its little thing. There's high silliness going on right there right now. So that's a very, maybe in a few days, hot spot. Then you've got China doing things in the South China Sea and in vis-a-vis Taiwan. And we're doing things, the U.S., that isn't really helping things at all. And then Iran's feeling uppity again. And so, Yeshua said, hey, there will be wars and rumors of wars, but don't be worried because the end is not yet. And a lot of people take that and mean, because wars aren't going to affect me. There's always wars. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying the end, when he comes back, is not yet. Those wars have to happen first. And so wars are out there. And I'm reminded, we read, the prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself. And that's kind of what we've done. We have come out of her, my people, right? We've come away from those, dare I say, if this gets really ugly, those targeted spots in this country where it's going to be. I mean, this isn't, I don't think this area of the Ozarks is going to be affected by war. So I think we're doing good there. And then famine. Famine always comes, well, it doesn't always, but it comes many times as a result of war because it's all about distribution of resources, and that all gets messed up. And there's people talking about the grand solar minimum, which I totally don't follow at all. People are talking about global warming and global cooling and, whatever. But there's a lot of people other than me saying that there's food problems coming to the world. And again, I think about us as Shofarians, and because I tell people on my channel all the time, stack food to the rafters. You don't have enough food, buy more food. I'm telling you, do your own self-assessment. Right now, food is pretty cheap. If war happens, food's going to be very expensive, and then it will be very hard to get. And so, to the extent that you have extra money at the end of the day, buy food. I believe we're being led by the Father to do these things. I believe we're being led by the Father to come here. I believe we're being led by the Father. Everybody here that I know of stores food. He's probably got us there for a reason. And then pestilence, famine, plague. I'm not a big guy on COVID. Some of you are, some of you aren't. That's fine, whatever. But there's a lot of smart people saying there's another thing coming behind that. Whether it's man-made, nature-made, whatever, doesn't really matter. In the end, it's coming. There's probably that kind of stuff going. We read about it. We read about how it's going to kill 1/3 of the people on the earth and stuff like that. But it says, come out of her, my people. Get away from those built-up areas. Get away from those cities. And we have, to a large degree. So again, I think we're listening to the Father. We're doing those things. There's people out there in YouTube land that aren't. That was just on my heart to talk about today. I know to y'all, right here, that's like preaching to the choir, so there's probably somebody out there that needed to hear that. Speaking of war, let's go to Joshua chapter 14. It's been a couple weeks since we were there. We've been reading about the dividing up of the land. We read about how Moses divided up the land on the east side of the Jordan before they crossed over. And we talked about how it was Moses, Moshe, yes, but it was really Yah, right, who said do these things. Well, now they come to the new side of the land, the new side of Jordan. They fought some battles. They've won most of their battles. Now they have land to divide up among themselves. It's not yet settled, all the land. They've won the big battles, but it's not yet settled. And so to divide the land, they do it by lot, right? And they Urim and the Thummim. And they say, this is your tribes, this is your tribes. So that gets us up to 14. And these are the countries which the children of Israel inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel distributed for inheritance to them, to the Israelites. And it amazes me how things come together. I've been talking about on video for a while now how things are organized, how people are organized in various ways that happens, and how tribes have been organized throughout history. And so here we have a picture just in verse 1 of Joshua. He's the leader of Israel, right? At this point, he's the human leader of Israel. And right there is Eleazar, the high priest. And you look at tribes, and tribes typically have a head chief, of whatever you call him, the head man, the big boss, the big man, whatever. And then they typically have a spiritual advisor. And even United States presidents kind of fake that a little bit, right? Like Billy, right? Billy Graham. Billy Graham was like a counselor to many presidents, and then other presidents said, well, this is my spiritual leader, and yada, yada. It's a real thing. Even all Native Americans would have a chief and then like a medicine man, or somebody else has this and a shaman or whatever. And so we see this right here. And then it's those two, and then underneath them is the heads of all the tribes, the elders of the tribes. So you could look at them as the chieftains of those tribes if you want to, or the warlords of those tribes, or however you want to phrase it. But right there you have a hierarchical form of government already formed. And it strikes me as interesting that it's very tribal, the way it's done. I mean, we say the tribes of Israel, right? But that's what you have right there. 2, by lot was their inheritance, as Yahweh commanded by the hand of Moshe for the 9 tribes and for the half tribe. And that's because there's 2.5 tribes on the other side of the river. For Moshe had given an inheritance, there you go, of 2 tribes and a half tribes on the other side of Jordan. But unto the Levites he gave none inheritance among them. And so if you do the math here, you have 2.5 tribes on this side. You have, 9.5? On this side, that's 12. And then the Levites got nothing. That's 13. Right? It sounds like 13 tribes. And we kind of touched on that a few weeks ago too. That's because Joseph broke up into Manasseh and Ephraim. Right? So those are 2 separate tribes, the same tribe, house of Joseph, whatever, but that's how those numbers work out like that. For the children, well, of course, just read one more verse there, PJ. For the children of Joseph were 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. Therefore they gave no part unto the Levites in the land, save cities to dwell in, with their suburbs for their cattle and for their substance. This is another interesting thing. In America today, we are a very spread out country compared to a lot of countries, which is why public transportation doesn't work here. But the car is essential to Americans, which gives us great freedom. We get to go wherever we want. It's also in many ways a weakness, because if you take away the cars or take away the gasoline, we can't really do things like they can in Europe. Europe's very tight-knit. I'm not sure what it's like in Latin America or wherever. Asia, in large part, is in the cities. They're cities, and then spread out. They're spread out. They don't have a lot of cars. But our suburbs are designed to live in a nicer place and then commute into city, into the work, right? Into the build-up area. We live in the suburbs. But here when we read about the suburbs, it's, again, the way people have lived forever. And it applies to Shofar Mountain. When we started designing the plans for Shofar Mountain initially, and I got the idea from a book that I read. You get a piece of land, and you get, let's just say 20 families are going to move on to this piece of land. Automatically, what Americans want to do is, well, I'll put my house over there. Keith and Maria, you can put yours over there. You guys can put yours over there. And we want to spread out, right? We want elbow room. We want to be able to have our own place. But that's not how people live. And that's not how they're living here. They're living tight-knit together. The Levites, that's what we're reading about, but it's how everything worked. And then around them is the land with the crops and the animals and things like that. It maximizes the use of your agricultural land if you do it that way. It also helps to defend the cities with the walls and all the people are together and stuff like that. seek ye the old paths, seek ye the old ways, old will become new again. I think we may see living arrangements like this in the future. And Yahweh commanded Moshe, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said unto him, I'm going to read this and I'm going to come back. Thou knowest the thing that Yahweh said unto Moshe, the man of Elohim, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea. 40 years old was I then when Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to espy out the land, and I brought him word again, and it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed Yahweh my Elohim. And Moshe sware on that day, saying, Surely the land wherein thy feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed Yahweh my Elohim. And now, behold, Yahweh has kept me alive, and he said these 45 years, even since Yahweh spake the word unto Moshe, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, and now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. How old is that?
85.
85. And yet I am as strong as the day I was in, the day that Moshe sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now for war, both to go out and to come in. Now therefore, give me this mountain, whereof Yahweh spake in that day. For thou heard in that day how the Anakims were there, and that the cities were great and fenced. If so be that Yahweh will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out, as Yahweh said. This is interesting. The land's being handed out, right? It's being doled out by lot, by things. And then here comes Caleb. He talks about time. And so we get a good feel, because we haven't had a real good feel of how much time this has all taken. It's been 45 years since Caleb went to spy out the land with the other spies. There were 12 total, right? 10 and 2. And so it's been 45 years up to now, because he was 40 then, and now he's 85. And y'all remember the story. 12 spies went in. When they came back, 10 were like scared to death, right? There's giants, we can't go there, we can't fight these people. And they scared the children of Israel. And the children of Israel are like, what do? You brought us out here to fight giants? You know, we were safe in Egypt and all that stuff. Who are the two spies that gave a good report?
Joshua and Caleb.
Caleb and Joshua. So here's Caleb talking to Joshua. Now, if you've been in the military, you understand this. If you haven't, you may understand it. Joshua and Caleb have history. They fought the big fight. They did the cool thing way back when. Together, they came out, and they were the two guys who did well out of their little 12-man team when they came out. They were brave, they were strong, and they said they trusted in Yah. And they said, we can do this. The Army uses this phrase, and I don't like the way the Army uses it, battle buddies. But they really were battle buddies. I mean, they had been through battle together. And it wasn't really battle, they were spying, but it was a military mission, and it was scary. And they went and they did that together, and they came back, so they've got that links them. They're comrades in arms, and if you think about it, what they did was a special operation. They did a long-range reconnaissance into enemy-held territory, came out and gave a good report. And so they're tight. Well, now, here we are 45 years later, Joshua has gone from being just a cool soldier spy dude to he's in charge of all of Israel, and the only other guy that was on that mission that made them, really, that made them the people they are today, is Caleb. And so Caleb's coming back and saying, hey man, there was a promise made to me to give me this land, you know, and you heard it in Yah and dun-dun-dun-dun, and I'm here to claim my land. That's pretty bold, if you think about it. But I wouldn't say he's calling in a favor so much as he's standing up for what's his, and he has the boldness to speak about it and to say, hey, this is my land, and I want this land. Now, the spies go into the land. They come back out. 10 of them are like, ooh, we don't want to go there. The Israelites get afraid. They're like, oh, then what happened? What was the result of that fear?
The 10 spies were put to death.
The result of that fear was that for 40 years after that, because that fear was a lack of trust in Yah, is what that was. Everyone's not trusting in Yah, except Joshua and Caleb. They're like, hey, yeah, we can do this thing. They walk around the desert for 40 years until that whole generation of people, except for Joshua and Caleb, die. So none of those people who didn't trust in Yah at that time, after everything they'd seen under Moshe to that point, got to go into the promised land. They all died. And it was due to a lack of faith. And if you put it on the, kind of flip the coin over, Joshua and Caleb, who did have faith in Yah, they did really well, if you think about it. Otherwise, so the lesson there is have faith in Yah. Be brave, be bold. Now, 9. I want to go over 9 again. We read in 9, and Moshe swore that day, saying, surely the land wherein thy feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed Yahweh my Elohim. So there, Moshe is saying that, and that is in, I got a note here, Deuteronomy 1, 35 and 36. So Yahweh says of Caleb, because you have wholly followed Yahweh my Elohim. Who's the other guy that had a good report coming out? Joshua. Right? Let's skip ahead in Joshua to chapter 24:15. You already know this bit, so it's not like we're going to spoil what's coming up later. 24:15. Speaking of Joshua. Matter of fact, we'll start in 14. Now therefore fear Yahweh and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil for you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. That's Joshua talking. We'll get to that in 2 months or something. But the point is, look at these two men who were forged in fire, forged in difficulty, went into the land of the giants and came back out and still had faith in Yah. That has molded them and helped make them the men they are today. They're old dudes now. I mean, Caleb's 85. Joshua's probably somewhere around there. They're old guys, and yet they still have this really strong faith in Yah. If anything, I would say it probably got stronger as time went on. So, standing up for Yah, standing up against, I'm afraid of the giants, but I trust in Yah, we're going to do this. Being brave, overcoming difficulty or adversity. These types of things make us different people. They make us better people. If we can stretch ourselves when we're in a bad situation and grab onto some courage and grab onto some faith in Yah, when we come through that to the other side, we're going to be changed. We're going to be different people. We're going to be stronger people. We're going to be better people. At the same token, if when faced with adversity and faced with trials and faced with difficulties, and in some cases, huge giants running at you or something, and you crumble and you cave, years later, you may never get over that. And it's like bravery or cowardice in battle on a human level. Exercise a little bit of right here in this part, and you'll come out a much better person. Cave and curl up in a ball and suck your thumb, and you're going to come out a destroyed person and a weaker person. And then you'll be looking at somebody like Joshua and Caleb and going, I could have done that. I could have been like them. And so the thing here is to hang on to the faith in Yah when everything seems hopeless. And right now things look bright. Our future looks bright. Everything looks good for us personally. We like it. But when hard times will come, maybe to you as an individual, maybe to us as a group or whatever, grab onto that. Because I'm telling you, at the other end of that, is goodness, is good stuff. Be bold in Yah, is what my notes say. So, now therefore, verse 12, give me this mountain, wherefore Yahweh spake in that day, as you heard in that day of how the Anakims were there, and that cities were great and fenced. If so be Yahweh will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out as Yahweh said. Here's this 85-year-old guy. Joshua, I don't know if you could say he owes him one, but he knows he has a special place with Joshua. He pretty much knows that if he asks Joshua for just about anything, he's probably going to get it. He's 85. He's lived a full, long life. He's done hard things. He could have said, I'm really liking that valley over there with that nice little brook going through it and all the green grass for my flocks. Joshua, man, I trod on that land. You know, when we came in here and spied, you remember when I looked at that? Why don't you give me that? He's like, no. I'm 85. I feel as strong as I did when I was 40, when you and me went through the land. I know there's Anakim. Do you guys know who Anakim are?
Mm-hmm.
They're giants. They are descendants of the Nephilim. There's giants still in those hills. Matter of fact, we're going to read later about the giants that he goes in and kills, you know, and the people under him. He's like, give me that. I'm going to go take on those giants at 85. Isn't there a Christian movie called Something the Giants?
Yes, I can't remember.
Facing the Giants?
Yeah, Facing the Giants.
Yeah.
It probably comes from this. I don't know where they got the title because I don't really remember the movie a whole lot. But think about that. He's saying, send me in there. I want that. Yeah, it's got giants in it. I want that for my people. That's the land I want. He's not done proving his faith in Yah, proving the glory of Yah, showing other people, yeah, this 85-year-old man with Yah behind him and his people can go into these hills and kick these giants out. He's still hungry for that. I think it speaks greatly of Caleb as a man. And then my note says he still has the courage, the will, the desire, and he still had the ability to fight giants. Bring that home to us. We can have the will, the strength, the courage, the ability to fight giants, whether those are real giants or just giant problems, if we maintain our faith and our trust in Yah. And it's easy to say. Right now, we're all well-fed. We're all pretty comfortable sitting here. And it's like, yeah, I could do that. It's different when you're facing the giant. And that's when we have to reach in and deep in our trust for Yah. All right. So 13, Joshua blessed him, and he gave unto Caleb the son of Jephunneh Hebron for an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite unto this day, because, why? Because he wholly followed Yahweh Elohim of Israel. And the name of Hebron was Kirjath Arba, which Arba was a great man among the Anakim. So Arba's a giant. And the land had rest from war. So whose land is Hebron?
Caleb's.
Caleb's. He's from Judah, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's given to him by Yah through the hand of Joshua. I looked up Hebron. Does anybody know where Hebron is today?
It's in Israel.
It's in the West Bank. It's controlled by the Palestinians, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess. And, you know, the Palestinians say it's theirs. Whose land is it? It's Israel's land. I mean, it says it right here. It's their land forever. And oh, by the way, he went, and as we'll read later, kicked all the giants out to kind of put the frosting on that to earn it. He did all this because he had, as it says, wholly followed Yahweh, his Elohim. Wholly followed, meaning he poured himself into doing what Yah wanted. Yah says, do this, I'm doing it. Yah says, don't do this, I'm not doing it. And when it says wholly followed, he didn't equivocate on it. We need to do that. We need to look for places in our own lives where we may be equivocating, or we may not be wholly following Yah. It's like, I could do better here. We should do better. One, because we should do better. Two, because goodness follows from that. And it sounds kitschy. It sounds slogany to my head as it's about to come out of my mouth. But if we do that, if we wholly follow Yahweh, we can fight giants. We can go fight giants. And I believe we've got giants in our future to fight. So we've got to work on our trusting and following Yah. That's the message for today. Let's pray.